July 5th, 2015, Milan, Italy, 11:47 p.m. The servers are burning, not literally, but 400 gigabytes of data are flooding out. In the company's sleek offices near the Duomo, security monitors flash red. Alarms that should have triggered hours ago suddenly scream to life. Someone named Phineas Fisher is inside their system, and they're not stealing the data, they're giving it away to everyone. The files are already spreading across Twitter, uploaded to WikiLeaks, mirrored on servers in a dozen countries. By morning, the world will know everything. The dictators they armed, the dissidents they helped murder. But inside one of those leaked emails, buried in thousands of messages, is something even more damning. A simple sentence in Italian: ethics are good, but they don't pay the rent. The signature at the bottom: David Vincenzetti, Chief Executive Officer. This is the story of how a handful of hackers in Milan built a digital weapons empire. How they sold the keys to your iPhone, your laptop, your life, to anyone with enough money. How they armed dictatorships and hunted journalists from Bahrain to Mexico to Saudi Arabia. Because in the world of cyber warfare, there's an old rule that everyone forgets. Eventually, someone hacks back. Every program, every app, every operating system ever written contains flaws. Little mistakes in millions of lines of code. They can give an attacker complete control over your device without you ever knowing. These are called zero-day vulnerabilities. In 2003, he co-founded Hacking Team in Milan with a simple pitch: governments need to spy on criminals and terrorists. The Italian government became one of their first clients. Then Morocco, then other countries across Europe and the Middle East. They called their flagship product the Remote Control System, or RCS. But security researchers had another name for it: Galileo. The software was frighteningly powerful. Once installed on a target's device, it could do everything: record phone calls, capture emails. Vincenzetti built a team of some of Italy's best security researchers. They weren't just programmers, they were exploit developers, the elite hackers. From the outside, Hacking Team looked like a successful cybersecurity company helping governments fight crime. They attended conferences. Vincenzetti gave interviews about ethics and responsibility. Behind closed doors, something else was happening. The client list was growing. Some were regimes with long records of torturing dissidents and murdering journalists. And Hacking Team was selling to all of them. Because ethics are good, but they don't pay the rent. The message looked legitimate, like it came from a colleague. But when he clicked, nothing happened. No video loaded, just a blank page. What he didn't see was the code executing in the background, a zero-day exploit sliding through a vulnerability in his browser. His laptop camera turned on randomly, watching him in his home. His microphone recorded private conversations. Security researchers began finding the same malware on dissidents' computers across the Middle East and North Africa. The code had a signature, a digital fingerprint. Citizen Lab, a research group at the University of Toronto, started investigating. They published reports with damning titles: For Their Eyes Only and Mapping Hacking Team's Untraceable Spyware. Sudan, where the government was committing genocide in Darfur. Syria, where Assad was murdering protesters in the streets. Ethiopia, where the government was jailing journalists and torturing dissidents. Hacking Team's response? Deny everything. They claimed their software wasn't being misused. But inside the company, emails told a different story. Sales teams were celebrating. Morocco alone was paying hundreds of thousands of euros for system upgrade. And Vincenzetti? He was expanding. Not just Hacking Team, but an entire ecosystem of companies trading in digital weapons. While Hacking Team grabbed headlines, another company was quietly becoming even more powerful. NSO Group, founded in Israel in 2010. Pegasus could infect an iPhone with a single text message. No clicking required. No user interaction at all. In 2016, a human rights activist in the UAE named Ahmed Mansour received suspicious text messages on his iPhone. Instead of clicking, he sent the messages to Citizen Lab. Apple issued an emergency patch, but the cat was out of the bag. By 2015, there were dozens of companies in this space, some in Israel, some in Europe, some in the United States. A full chain of exploits that could break into an iPhone remotely, 10 million or more. Their client presentations showed off new capabilities every quarter. They could hack smart TVs. They could break into satellite phones used by diplomats and military personnel. The European Union started debating export controls on surveillance technology. They created shell companies to hide sales to controversial clients. They routed payments through third parties. And they kept selling. Jamal Khashoggi walks into the Saudi consulate to get paperwork for his upcoming marriage. His fiancée waits outside. He tells her if he's not out in 2 hours, call for help. Inside the consulate, a team of 15 Saudi agents is waiting. They murder him. The tool they used? NSO Group's Pegasus spyware. In Mexico, journalists investigating government corruption kept ending up dead. Forensic analysis later showed Pegasus infections on the devices of at least 25 journalists and activists in Mexico. In India, a lawyer representing victims of state violence received an email with a malicious link. He clicked it. Weeks later, evidence on his computer was allegedly discovered that sent him to prison. In Rwanda, critics of President Paul Kagame, living in exile, began noticing strange activity on their phones. The spyware companies maintained their innocence. They were just selling tools, they said. But the evidence kept piling up. These companies weren't just enabling surveillance, they were enabling murder. Someone who calls themselves Phineas Fisher has spent months preparing for this, studying Hacking Team's infrastructure. The irony is perfect. Hacking Team is about to be completely compromised by a lone hacker, using many of the same techniques they sell to their clients. It takes hours to exfiltrate all the data. 400 gigabytes, 40,000 emails. At 11:47 p.m., the first tweet appears from Hacking Team's own compromised Twitter account. Within hours, journalists around the world are digging through the leaked files. What they find is devastating. Sales presentations to Sudan's intelligence service, the same agency running torture camps in Darfur. There are emails where Vincenzetti jokes about ethics, messages where sales representatives celebrate closing deals with dictatorships. The source code reveals something even more troubling. Hacking Team had been stockpiling 0 days. Security researchers immediately began analyzing the leaked 0 days. Software companies scrambled to issue emergency patches. Within a week, most of Hacking Team's 0 days were patched. Their entire arsenal, built over years and worth millions, was suddenly worthless. Law enforcement agencies in democratic countries, worried about the public relations disaster, quietly ended relationships with Hacking Team. Vincenzetti tried to save the company. He gave interviews claiming the hack was an attack on all of law enforcement. Hacking Team's stock price for their publicly traded Swiss subsidiary collapsed. Partners fled. The company that had built an empire selling surveillance to dictators was brought down by a single hacker using the same tactics they'd profited from. The immediate fallout was swift and brutal. Hacking Team laid off dozens of employees within months. When they found NSO Group's Pegasus on devices, they sued, a multi-billion-dollar company taking a surveillance vendor to court. In November 2021, the Commerce Department added NSO Group to its entity list, the same blacklist used for foreign adversaries. The European Union began drafting regulations, export controls on surveillance technology. Before the Hacking Team leak, most people had no idea this industry existed. Citizen Lab and other research groups got more funding. Journalists started investigating surveillance companies more aggressively. As for the individuals behind Hacking Team, they scattered. Vincenzetti left the company in 2016. Phineas Fisher released a detailed guide explaining how they hacked Hacking Team, turning it into a teaching moment for other hackers. The UN Special Rapporteur on Freedom of Expression called for a global moratorium on the sale of surveillance technology. Today, the mercenary spyware industry is worth an estimated $12 billion annually. But there's resistance now. Tech companies invest billions in defensive technologies. Vincenzetti once wrote, "We're not like the tobacco companies. We're helping governments protect their citizens." 400 gigabytes of truth. That's what it took to bring them down. The question now is whether we've learned the lesson, whether we'll regulate this industry before the next Jamal Khashoggi. The tools are more powerful now than ever, the 0 days more sophisticated, the surveillance more invasive. And somewhere, right now, someone is selling the keys to your phone to the highest bidder. No questions asked.